Man, this shit is getting crazy. Never seems to amaze me. I think the devil's trying to play me. Oh, Lord.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Use Your Own Intelligence podcast. I am your host, Fritz, and today I want to talk about this DOGE investigation into the federal government and its spending, okay? And usually on my episodes, I talk about the American experience, the Black American experience, the Haitian American experience. But today I want to strictly just talk about the American experience, okay? Because whether you're paying attention or not, I want you guys to truly understand. I want you to really, truly understand this, okay? This DOGE investigation is very important, okay? For the first time in history, in my adult life, okay, or never, okay, we've seen a president challenge its own government and the way it spends its money, okay? Now, I don't know about you guys, but most of the Americans I talk to, we're sick and tired of where our tax dollars go. We're really fed up with this government. We've always have been. We've always wondering, why are you guys funding these wars and we're not in agreement with these wars? Like, that conversation has been going on, I know, way before I was even born. But I definitely, as an adult now, growing up in this country, it really bothers me the way this government spends our money. So when I tell you this is a very important investigation, ladies and gentlemen, it's not an understatement. I need you guys to really start paying attention. And if the more and more American citizens pay attention, I can guarantee you the more change that can come. But the problem is we're so distracted by entertainment and things of that nature, right? The whole entertainment industry is just been distracting the hell out of us from some very important things that's been happening in this country, okay? All right, but not to get off topic, all right? It's very important that you follow this investigation. If you are American tax dollars, if you pay taxes, okay, to not be following this investigation is like a huge disservice to yourself and to the country itself, but more importantly, to your damn self. I mean, if a group of people come together in this country, like, the American citizens, and we tell our politicians this is what we want, and we're all together on it, 9 times out of 10, that's going to be the change we get. But the problem is we're so divided and we're so worried about being a Republican and Democrat. You know the BS, and it's basically the game the government has always played, against us American people. But I need you guys to really come together and really understand that this government and the way it spends it's a bipartisan thing. It's not neither a Democrat or Republican thing. The people that are running this country are not your president. He's just basically a puppet. All right. Yes, your president is the puppet. As much as I want to say his name up here, I don't want to get flagged. I want to get shadow banned because we know the game. Okay, but you know exactly who your current American president is at the moment, and he's very much so a puppet, and he serves a lot of powerful people. Usually, they're a culture that starts with a J and ends with an H, and I can't even say that either because we all know majority of them are of that descent. Okay, but hey. You got to do the research on that. Don't worry about me, right? Don't worry about what I'm saying, right? Just do your own research, right, on that. It's just as far as that. All right. So anyways, for so long in this country, we've been paying taxes and we really hate where it goes. Like, we really want to save as much money as we can, the money that we work hard for. We really want to save and do what we want. But sometimes we're forced to pay taxes on things that we don't agree with. And I'm not a fan of DOGE. I'm not a fan of Elon. I'm not a fan of this current president, but I am a fan of an investigation on this current government and the spending. All right. So I'm going to be entertained, to say the least. Right. I am going to be entertained, to say the least. As much as I might not agree or like these guys that are doing this investigation, but I got to pay attention just so I can be entertained, to say the least, so I can really know what's going on, because there's going to be a lot of things that's going to be exposed. All right. Because regardless if you understand or not, this country is really at odds with itself. Our government, they're really divided at this point. They're really not getting along. Okay. And when you hear our current leader of the free world, our president, saying that this country is in very big trouble and we have a lot of issues, and then in the same breath he's saying we're going to a golden era, It really makes no sense. It's really a shit show out here, just to be honest. Excuse my language. It really is. All right. Everything this guy says, he talks a good game, but nothing really makes sense. And when I go into this article, all right, on NPR, all right, about DOGE and this investigation, you're going to see more and more how it's really hard to be optimistic as far as where this country is headed. It's really hard. Despite this current president saying we're going to a golden era, it's going to require, how should I say, some type of a miracle, to be honest with you, all right? Because it's really like saying for the 1% in this country, that not only runs this country, but runs a large majority of this world, right? For that 1%, they're really going to have to stop being evil. They're going to have to stop being greedy. They're going to really have to start sharing some wealth. It's very interesting that DOGE is trying to cut a check for every American for $5,000. If that doesn't explain to you how much corruption has been going on, when our own president is actually in agreement with that. And if it does go into play, it's going to take place in 2006 sometimes, that every American citizen who pays taxes is going to get a $5,000 check just off of what they found so much with the mismanagement of the funds and what's been happening in this government. That's just how corrupt everything is. So it's kind of hard to hear all this information that's coming in and to be optimistic and feel like we're really going into the golden era. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll never know. But I want to start about this investigation about DOGE and on the American government and its spending. And I want to go into this article on NPR, all right, written by a guy named Stephen Fowler, okay? Good article, by the way, Stephen. And I wanted to go into it. It's not a long article, but I wanted to break down exactly what's going on with this investigation and our current government and how this being pushed back with this government and how DOGE is asking for more transparency. And both parties, both DOGE and the government, of course, it's not rocket science. They have negative things to say about each other, right? But I'm going to break in detail exactly why things are not making sense, and it's going to be really hard to be optimistic about our government and DOGE really getting to the bottom line of what the hell we can do about this deficit and this mismanagement of our tax dollars, okay? A new online tracker on the Department of Government Efficiency's website puts the dollar amount on the estimated savings from the DOGE effort to slash federal government spending at $55 billion, okay? But an NPR analysis finds the numbers don't add up. The DOGE site posts reminiscence of a feed on the Musk-owned social media site X, say some savings come from sources like fraud detection, deletion, and workforce reductions, programmatic changes, and regulatory savings, and state that the full disclosure of the unit's actions will take time. Y'all hear that? We are working to upload all of this data in a digestible and fully transparent manner with clear assumptions consistent with the applicable rules and regulations. I like that. Transparency. You got to love it, right? You know, in American citizens, you got to love transparency because, man, we're in desperate need of it. The website reads, to get started, listed below are a subset of contract and lease cancellations. All right. The Doge.gov savings page then lists a wall of receipts. DOGE's first major data release that initially claims to show more than $16 billion in savings from ending contracts after correcting an apparent clerical error, it now shows $8.5 billion. An NPR review of more than 1,100 contracts in that initial release finds the DOGE maximally transparent calculation still overstates its estimated savings totals by billions of dollars. Okay, it's just the beginning. It's only been a month. This man's been in office, right? Our current president. We're going to have mistakes, but I hope these mistakes end soon because we can't afford those type of big mistakes. That's a big deficit. All right. Of the DOGE list initial claim of $16 billion in savings, half came from an Immigration and Customs Enforcement, that's ICE, listing that was entered into the federal procurement data system in 2022 with a whopping $8 billion maximum possible value. According to a DOGE post on X, that number was a typo that was corrected in the contract database to 8 million. That's a big mistake, ladies and gentlemen, okay? On January 22nd of this year before being terminated a week later. And DOGE has always used the correct 8 millions in its calculations. But for much of this week, DOGE listed the outdated 8 billion for its savings claim while linking to the termination notice with the smaller ceiling amount. Sometime Tuesday evening, the DOGE link was changed to the point at the original 8 billion entry, and on Wednesday morning, the site was revised once again to show the 8 millions in savings. But still linked to the larger outdated claim, the site also continues to list 55 billion in total estimated savings, the 8.5 billion in alleged contract savings, and another 46.5 billion with no specifically documented source. This is why I tell you I can't trust DOGE or the government. Just pay attention. It's getting interesting. Spokespeople for the White House and DOGE did not respond to multiple requests for clarification about the DOGE data and savings claims shares online. Of course, they're not going to respond, right? Other discrepancies in DOGE representation of data are more technical. The ICE example is also one of many DOGE entries that is not actually a contract, but rather a different procurement method known as blanket purchase agreement, where the high maximum value acts as a sort of large line of credit for orders to be called against. And I'm not really with BPAs, all right? They should really call it you know what I'm saying, a blank check agreement, because it's really, like you say, a large line of credit, and it doesn't go into, by a vendor. And until an order is placed is when the money comes. So it's to me, that type of thing, it leaves too much room for what you call manipulation and corruption. But, that's just my opinion. You guys tell me what you feel about the BPAs, all right? All right, since the agreement began in the late 2022, ICE used it 3 times for work that totaled $3.5 million, for possible savings of $4.5 million, just over half of what the corrected DOGE data claimed. See, this is what I mean. Government contracting and budget experts say including those terminations in their estimates is one of many ways DOGE isn't sharing the complete picture of government spending and saving. Just over half of the contracts touted by DOGE, accounting for $6.5 billion in alleged savings, haven't actually been terminated or closed out of Wednesday, according to an NPR analysis of a federal government procurement database. Even though the site's wall of receipts listed these items, that includes a $1 billion IT support contract with Social Security Administration that actually added $1.8 million in obligated spending and an additional funding for a forest service project management contract worth up to nearly $30 million. More than a third of the listed contract posted online will not actually save any money if canceled, according to DOGE. Do you hear that? In all, estimated savings from the initial DOGE list of just over 500 contracts that the NPR found to be canceled runs closer to $2 billion, with roughly half of it coming from gutting of the Department of Education, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and the United States Agency for International Development. The contract DOGE has targeted at these agencies include ending research studies into early childhood education improvements, canceling access to financial market resources, and the proposed halting of billions in international foreign aid work. To check DOGE claims, NPR compared the unique award ID from each hyperlink DOGE published with a list of more than 130,000 contracts that have been modified since January 20th, when Trump got inaugurated. Downloaded from usaspending.gov, another public data source to review government spending, ladies and gentlemen. All right, now here goes the most important part. I want you guys to pay attention and why it's going to be a shit show and really figuring out and cleaning all this mess up, all right? Mr. Christopher Burns said, there's no doubt that these young people Musk has working for him are very intelligent coders, all right? Genius coders, but they're limited. Retired senior contracting officer Christopher Burns said, referring to the DOGE team members who have apparently been identifying cuts across government agencies. They don't understand the processes. They don't understand how things work. They don't understand contracts, and they don't understand grants, Burns said. Now, I'm going to tell you why I have an issue with this. How can you, just hear me out, in American people, I want y'all to really give me y'all 2 cents on this, all right? How could you in the same breath tell these guys they're very intelligent coders, which is very difficult, by the way. They're genius coders, but they're limited. But in the same breath, you're telling them they're too stupid to really understand contracts, grants, and how this process works. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand, right? This is what government has been doing for years with the American people that really upsets me and makes me angry. Things that are very simple and could be in very black and white, right? They make and manipulate as if it's so difficult for you to understand because they have to hide things. That's where the corruption starts. They don't want to release certain documents. They want to release the exact numbers because they're corrupted. They're mismanaging our tax dollars. They're mismanaging our funds. This is just typical government behavior, right? But what makes me very upset about this statement by Mr. Christopher Burns and how he feels about Musk and his team, right? Ladies and gentlemen, every citizen who has a bank account in this country, right? You pretty much know how your funds go in. You know how you can transfer funds, how you receive funds. It's very simple. And if you don't know, let me just break down in layman terms how it is to understand transactions and things of that nature, okay? There's always a source. It has to start somewhere. Money doesn't just fall out the sky. It really doesn't grow on trees. There's literally always a source. There's somebody holding or some entity that has a lot of money or just has money, right? In this particular situation, the government usually goes to the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve then gives the money to the government, and then the government usually disperses the money, okay? In this particular situation with DOGE and what they're auditing with the government, okay, it's not really rocket scientist, Mr. Burns, to really know that there's a source and then there's transactions, okay? There's a place where the money is, and then if you follow the money trail, you will see from that source where the money was given to and who gave the money up, okay? It's very black and white. It's usually, and if you want to be transparent with the American people, these documents that the government is holding back from DOGE, which DOGE claims they want to make transparent for the public, I really want the government to just go ahead and release them. And I really wish us, the American people, would put pressure on these public servants to really start being more transparent and to release these documents. It gets so bad into this article because it's like people like Christopher Burns and these senior contract officers and many other people for the government, they want the actual government to launch its own investigation. But I got to give it to Trump and his administration. Excuse me, our current president. I don't want to say any names. I don't want to get shadow banned. I got to give it to this current president and creating this DOGE, whether I trust him or not. I mean, it's something that, like I say, I'm at least going to be entertained about, right? We finally got an outside entity that's going to actually audit the government. You know, the same people that has this $36 trillion in debt. I'm going to say it again. The same group of people, the small group of people that has this country in $36 trillion of debt, who's been taking our money, funding wars that we shouldn't even be in, that we've been lied to on reasons why we're going into, like Iraq and all the others. I don't need to even go into details. You guys know what this government does and what they've been doing. We finally got a private organization that says, hey, we've seen you guys been really mismanaging our money, and we want you to release all your documents so we can see exactly what you've been doing. Whoa, we really can't do that. I'm sorry, we can't really. But you work for the American people. The American people want to see what you've been doing with your money. So when I hear Christopher Burns say, oh, they don't understand, it's almost like he's trying to hide it. Because you got to understand, this guy's been, let me say, Byrne, who's been contracting, all right, career span more than 20 years and included work with the General Service Administration, the Environmental Protection Agency, and Navy, says DOGE website is also missing basic information needed to track and understand federal spending. Now, that says a lot. See, because you got to understand, when Mr. Burns say things like this, he's telling me that, hey, I've been a part of this for 20 years, and you're basically trying to say it's going to be my fault. Yes, Mr. Burns, you and the whole damn government. I'm almost at the point where is if the more and more that's exposed, I think these people are afraid that they're going to have to go to jail if the truth is really released. Let's be honest with you. And let me read further for you could fully understand what I'm saying. 6 other current and former federal contracting officers who spoke with NPR on the condition of anonymity for fear of retaliation says that DOGE savings page is misleading the public with data it includes, like overemphasizing the maximum possible value of contracts canceled, as well as with what it leaves out. They say, like, how much has already been budgeted and spent to fulfill the contract. Jessica Riedel, a senior fellow at the Center Right Manhattan Institute who studies ways to cut extraneous government spending, says DOGE is doing more harm than good to the government and how it has cut costs and shared them with the public. A smarter way to reform contracting, all right, hear this out, would actually cost money in the short term, Real said, because it requires audits, it requires analysis, building new systems, building new controls, rather than just going through with a chainsaw and trying to cut contracts almost randomly. When you're part of the problem, these are the type of rebuttals you have. For something that could just be easily, simply released, just give up the documents. For every government congressman that refused to release its spending, you do understand you're part of the problem, right? For all my people part of the government that does not want to release, if DOGE is going to be what it says it's going to be, and it's really going to launch this investigation on the government for us, the people, to see what the hell's been going on, right? And they're all for the people, right? We at least need to be entertained by this. We should at least support that. Anybody that's giving any pushback and releasing these documents, ladies and gentlemen, you should feel as if they're part of the problem. There should be nobody watching this podcast that feels like what I'm saying is wrong. Your tax dollars should have a money trail. The money you work hard for, that you should have a lot of say-so about where it goes. which you really don't with this government. I hope that, I'm really hoping that comes to an end. Like, we should have some type of explanation. We should have full transparency. And ladies and gentlemen, we're not getting it. We're damn sure not getting it. But let's read on about Mr. Byrne and how he feels, all right? And this Jessica Riedel, all right? Byrne, whose contracting career spanned more than 20 years and included work with General Service Administration, Environmental Protection Agency, and the Navy, says DOGE websites is also missing basic information needed to track and understand federal spending, like the ID number, what type of agreement or contract method was used, and whether the cancellation was for some or all of the spending. Several publicly available data sources already tracked and confirmed changes to federal contracts, including the Federal Procurement Data System, USAspending.gov, and the System for Award Management. Unlike DOGE, those sources list other relevant data like the current value of the contract, historical changes to the amount budgeted and spent for the contract, and when the contracts begin and end. DOGE saving page also does not include any evidence of fraud, waste, or abuse in contract, but does highlight ideological differences between the Trump administration and the previous priorities of former President Joe Biden. All right. You know that game they like to play. Good cop, bad cop, Republican, Democrat. That's what the government does. As for contracts, Burns said the discrepancy in DOGE data shows why information being entered into those systems by the government needs better validation and standardization to be more transparent. What validation are you going to get better than the American people? I really want Mr. Byrne to emphasize that. When you say better validation, who are you asking to validate, Mr. Byrne? Because if it's not the American people, you're just talking to talk, man. Like, we're not going to trust the government validating anything. The only transparency you're going to get is releasing documents and letting the American people figure it out. We're not dumb. We know how transactions works. We know how, there's sources that give out money. We know how it's transferred. We know how to follow money trails. Just make it transparent. Just stop hiding everything, as this government loves to do. All right. He added the shortcomings, all right, with the current training, staffing levels, and processes among contracting officers could be exacerbated by potential retirements and firings in coming months under the Trump administration's plan to downsize the federal workforce. They are not the people available to do the job, to do it well, he said, which is going to lead to more wasteful spending. All right. I really want to know who he feels as if it's the rightful people. I'm pretty sure he's going to say somebody dealing with government. Even government contracts, all right, that have been terminated before reaching their full value could end up costing taxpayers more to settle up. Jessica Tillepan, Associate Dean for Government Procurement Law Studies at the George Washington University Law School, previously told NPR that the termination for convenience clause used for many of these cancellations is expensive. When the government terminates the contract for convenience, it's still obligated to pay for the work completed, she said. This doesn't eliminate the government's responsibility for paying these sorts of costs. Duh. Riedel with Manhattan Institute also says that the only way for the federal government to cut spending and reduce the deficit is through meaningful and difficult changes enacted by Congress. That's the bullshit I'm talking about. The same people who we want to audit and we want to check and we want to not be involved in this investigation, because you gotta say Congress have signed off on a lot of government spending. You understand that? That's what the Congress do. They're part of the problem. This whole government is part of the problem. That 36 trillion, the Congress are involved, but yet she's pushing back and saying they should be involved. Why should they be involved? We're sick and tired of the government being involved. Put it in the hands of the people. Put it in the hands of the privatization of companies. Let DOGE and the American people figure it out. I guess that's all we got for now. We ain't got no other hope. I damn sure don't want to put it by I don't want to put Congress in this at all. I don't want to trust the Congress to do anything at all. I don't know how you guys feel. Let me know in the comment section, but I don't think they should be involved. And she says, and not DOGE creating a false perception that finding waste, fraud, and abuse is enough to get there. And I want to read that over. So I want y'all to really understand the BS that just was said here. Riedel with the Manhattan Institute also says that the only way for the federal government to cut spending, hear this out, and reduce the deficit is through meaningful and difficult changes enacted by Congress. And not DOGE creating a false perception that finding waste, fraud, and abuse is enough to get there. More than 60% of the $6.8 trillion the federal government spent last fiscal year was mandatory spending on popular programs like Medicare, Social Security, and income security programs. Spending that will require major legislative reforms to substantially reduce, all right, NPR's analysis found that of its verifiable work completed so far, DOGE has cut just $2 billion in spending, less than 0.03% of last fiscal year federal spending. And here goes the BS on how she closes all this out. Think of Congress and its budget as the debt-ridden dad on the way to buy a $250,000 Ferrari on the credit card. And DOGE is the $2 off gas card he used along the way, Real said. It's great that he saved $2 on gas, but I think his wife may be more concerned about the $250,000 car. Ladies and gentlemen, when I told you guys at the beginning, this is going to be a shit show, this is exactly what I mean. Do you not see already a month in what is happening? This so-called golden age we're supposed to be stepping into. It's our government is a shit show. It's chaotic. They're not even cooperating with each other. How are we going to ever get the truth? How can you be optimistic about this government and where this country is going? How do you feel? Like, how is the dollar going to be saved against a strong organization like BRICS when you got this type of foolishness happen? I thought this place was about unity. I thought we were all unified. I thought we really understood that. I mean, it's called the United States of America, crying out loud, but it really should be called the divided States of America. Nobody wants to get along. The people that we depend on, that our tax dollars go to, that we put in office, our public servants, they're not even serving us, the people. They got us $36 trillion in debt. They're funding wars that the American people don't even want to go in. And then, Lord, if I go over the list of everything, Trump our president and Elon has been saying about what the USAID has been spending with the money, you guys are going to throw up in your mouth. You're going to throw up in your mouth. You should really go do your research on what they're claiming. And nobody knows if it's true, but these are all accusations and what they say they've been finding, the USAID, and what they've been spending with our money. Because if you don't know, this current guy, Bernie, you used to be in the Navy. And if you guys don't even know about government in general, they overpay for everything by at least 300 to 500%. So if something is like $1, they're going to pay $300 to $500 for it. That's just what government does. You don't got to believe me. Go do your due diligence. Go do the research. This is what our government does. And I hope y'all not wondering why we're in $36 trillion in debt. It's pretty obvious that this government is very evil and nasty and very irresponsible. What is it going to take to really make a decent change, man? Because it's hard to be optimistic. But, as I said at the beginning, of this episode, I want you guys to just do one thing. If you don't take anything out of this episode, is to really pay attention. Do your homework. That's your homework assessment. I really know that if you're an American citizen and you pay tax dollars, please pay attention into this DOGE investigation into government spending. Okay, whether like I say, I'm not a fan of DOGE. I'm not a fan of Elon. I'm not a fan of our current president. I'm not a fan of this government for damn sure. But this is going to be entertaining to say the least. Really pay attention and see everything that's going to be exposed. Watch how they go back and forth, and watch how they play the game just to play with you, the American people. Things that could be so obvious, things that, like Mr. Burns says, she's telling the Elon Musk teams, they're intelligent, they're genius coders, but they're too dumb to understand contracts. They can't read. They don't really understand how transactions work. If you show them a bank statement, they're not going to really be able to process those transactions. They're not going to be able to see who's giving. That's basic-ish for anybody with a bank account. We're just asking you as the American people just to show us what you've been doing. And stop telling us that you can't release the documents and it's private. You telling us what you've been doing with our tax dollars it's not going to do anything but probably land some of you in jail that don't want it released. Some of you government officials that refuse, you congressmen, wherever you may be. It's almost as if you're hiding something when you don't want to tell the people that you serve what you've been doing with their money. Let's be honest. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to beat this episode too long, but literally, I do want you guys to pay attention. We're only a month in. This investigation could go on for, I don't know, years. But the amount of things that they've really been able to expose in a month is quite impressive. It's quite impressive. I really want to know where this is going to go. I'm really interested in going to go. Are we really going to get a check next year for $5,000 after they expose this government and how they basically, mismanage our funds, our tax dollars for so long? If y'all don't know, inflation is getting worse. They can't control it. It's rising again. Cost of living is high. This country is still $36 trillion in debt. Your wages, nationwide wages, they're either stagnant or they're going down on average. Nobody's getting a raise these days. If you're getting a raise, you're really part of a small percentage in this country. You have to be in the 1%. Wages are either stagnant or they're going lower. Inflation, cost of living is rising. And this government and its spending, it's getting nasty and it's getting exposed. Which is why you have a sitting president, including an external revenue service, not an internal, which he's trying to get rid of. Because this information, because from what we're noticing in this data and everything on the internet, everything is getting exposed. Everything is getting exposed. You cannot hide a thing. This government has been exposed to the T, to the point where we have a sitting president creating an ERS, an external revenue service, and is trying to get rid of the internal revenue service. Ladies and gentlemen, make that make sense. Do you understand what's really happening in our country? But yet the leader of the free world says we're stepping into a golden age. Well, I hope so. You know what I'm noticing? It's like this government. You know what I'm saying? Even our current president, which is part of it. It's all games, if you ask me. But we'll see what happens. You know what they do with us, the American people? I'm going to tell you what it's like, right? It's like we're that pipe that's about to burst at this moment, right? And right before that pipe bursts, it's like and that pipe bursting is basically they're squeezing every bit they can get out of us, every dollar they can get out of us, whether they're doing it through inflation, cost of living, or taxes. They squeeze everything they can get out of us, right? And right before we're about to bust, you know what I'm saying, they just release the pressure off the pipe just to get it out. Right when we're about to redline it and just burst, they just take a little bit of pressure out just to bring it down a little bit. But they keep it strenuous. They take as much as they can out of us. That's what I see when I think about this government and what they do to the American people with our money and our tax dollars. They just train us with every bit they can get, without a doubt. It's not even rocket science. You don't even think about it. We work our asses off. We work over 40 hours a week. Some of us are at 40 hours a week. We barely get a chance to spend it with our families because we're working so much. The damn school spends more time with our kids than we do. That's not normal, people. That's not normal. Everybody, for the most part, cannot afford to have a stay-at-home mother with their kids while the father goes out and work like he's supposed to do and bring back, the goodies. This country and where we're at right now and how bad it is, our economy, it's not good. It's really not. And this government has failed the American people to the utmost. It's looking bad. Like I say, do I trust DOGE in that organization? I don't, but I'll be lying if I told you I don't like the idea of launching an investigation on the government and its spending. And I don't think we should rely on the government to really answer these questions. I think they need to release the document, show us exactly what they be doing, release it to the public, and let the American people decide what the hell we should do with you. And for the ones that have been mismanaged our funds, and it's pretty blatant and it's been really bad, there should be some serious consequences for you. We got to set a tone to make sure the next public servant doesn't feel that comfortable with our money and mismanaging it. There should be some severe consequences. But the problem is when we're facing these powerful people and the lack of unity amongst the American people to put pressure on these people, the chances of it happening are not. So like I say, I'm at least going to be entertained by this investigation. If you are an American citizen, I repeat, and you pay taxes, please pay attention to the investigation. All right? And tell me what you guys think, man. And with that being said, I appreciate you guys for listening. Have a great day.
Man, this shit is getting crazy. Never seems to amaze me. I think the devil's trying to play me. Oh, Lord. But I'm a different type of nigga. Worth about 5 or 6 figures. Once that profit get bigger, you know. I gotta triple up on this cheese. Take a flight right over them seas. Maybe make a trip to Haiti, who knows? I just know that I have to go get it. And America's looking so hectic. Make you wanna grab the tech by the second, yes Lord. How the fuck it come to that? Most these niggas out here rats. And that statement can't be tracked, yeah I know. But these crackers is doing the sentencing. In the jail, you niggas repenting then. On the block, you be killing your men again, I know. This system been a trap. This shit must collapse. We ain't about far ways from that, yeah, they know. We gon' get through regardless. All that small talk so harmless. I'll pop what's under this garment, whoa. It ain't gotta come to that. Niggas been for peace till I proceed and really state the facts. These fuckers can't stand the fact we black. Jay Blake caught 7 to the back. And then I caught Aubrey with some armory, tryna run the 4 flat. I'm tryna keep my sanity intact, but the shit is getting deeper. Every time I watch the news, there's some white dudes playing like the Grim Reaper. Nigga, I ain't never been a sleeper. Rest in peace, Breonna Taylor. But I swear to God, you touch my doorknob, you niggas gonna meet your maker. This country getting faker. They gon' tryna outdate ya. For the immortalized, they gon' prophesize, you ain't gotta speak the nature. Just when you caramelize, it's when they see demise, it must be second nature. You can do us all a favor. Go ahead and catch the vapors. Act civilized and match your eye for eye, cause there won't be no one to save ya. And I'm a lovable type of neighbor. Might run you a couple of favors. But when you cross the line, it's when I see divide. I ain't forgiving you like your savior. Is you loving this type of behavior? I'm just a man, I ain't trying to persuade you. Hey.